shade on the countdown timer, but welcome to today's show where we're talking about, I would show you the background, but microphones and live audio, but there's a bunch of microphones in the way. So today's show is all about audio. There is a lot going on. Up here, you have a large diaphragm condenser mic. Right here, you have a headset mic, because it's actually on a headset. This is a shotgun microphone, a Sennheiser, a 2.4 gig mic, a 1.9 gig mic, a 400 megahertz mic, a desk mic, a condenser mic, and then we've got a little phantom powered mic, and then we've got an AVX mic over here, and that doesn't include, I think there's something else that's not even in the shot. Which is the mic that I'm using, which is over there. Alan Winston says he is looking forward to today's show because this is an area of improvement. Actually, it is often overlooked. Audio, the importance of audio in a video stream cannot be overstated, because if you basically have two parts, your audio and your video. If your video gets a little glitchy, but people can still hear the audio, they will stay with you. They will wait through the video and wait for it to recover as long as they can hear the audio, because it's like radio. If your audio goes away and your video continues, they're gone. You've lost them. Because if they can't hear anything, there's nothing there. It's like an audio show with pictures. But your audio is the most important thing. If your audio is bad, if it's glitchy, if it's distorted, people are not going to watch no matter how pretty the pictures are. I see people talking about, ooh, I want 4K and I want da-da-da-da-da. Your audio is more important. And the vast majority of people don't focus on the audio as much as they should. So yes, it is an area of improvement, even for me. I have a mic down here below the camera because I often am looking down, so I've moved it down. And I improved on that because it used to be up here overhead, which is where a lot of people present it. But because I'm looking down, I realized, when listening back to my own shows, that that wasn't the best place for it. So I'm always improving. First of all, let's talk dynamic mic or big condenser microphones. And that is because a lot of people love, when they do podcasts and stuff like that, they have these big condenser mics here. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And now, if I extend this a little bit, the large diaphragm microphones, hide that, go away. They tend to give you a nice, big, robust kind of sound because there's a large diaphragm as opposed to like a teeny little diaphragm that's in like a lavaliere microphone. There's no way that this is going to produce the same sound as a large diaphragm microphone like this. And then if you put it through a good processor like a Rodecaster Pro or any number of audio processors, to fatten up the sound, give it a little bit more brilliance and things like that, those will give you that podcast sound that is really isolated from everything else. You don't hear the room. You just hear the microphone. You just hear the person's sound. However, the challenge with these microphones is they got to be real close. They got to be in front of the person's face. They've got to be sort of obscuring the camera's view. So it's kind of like you want to see the person talking, but at the same time, you need to have the microphone right there in front of them. Also, if people move, like if I move off axis, the sound changes dramatically, whether I'm right on top of it or whether I move away. So if you have a person that moves a lot and they don't keep moving the microphone with them, which is why you often see those big arms in the way, you will find that these microphones might not be the best solution. It wouldn't be a great solution for me because I move around a lot. So being stuck here 2 inches from this microphone makes it really hard to do everything I need to do. Also, it's in the way. I really don't like that. I like having my other microphone that's further away. You hear a bit more of the room, but it allows me to do everything I need to do. These, like I says, are really nice sounding microphones. and you can get them in all sorts of designs from all different sorts of places. They, different. You can get them in white with white arms. You can get them in black with, black arms. I've seen people have them, spray painted pink and whatever color they want. So it is a look because it will be on camera. It is definitely a look. If you go and you Google podcast, you will see every single shot will have a big arm microphone in front of it. Nobody's going to be using lavaliers or shotgun or, little microphones. Although technically the content is the same no matter what microphone you use, this is a look that people kind of expect when you say you're going to do a podcast. So this is a large diaphragm microphone, and if that is, how you want to do your show, these things produce great audio, and like I said, you can fatten them up in mixers, and you just have that great, really present, in-your-face kind of sound. There we go. And this is the desk mic. So you can hear a distinct difference in between the super close, in-your-face microphone and the desk mic sitting further away. But thankfully, I don't have to have this thing in my face the rest of the show. I can move it off to the side, unless, of course, somebody asks a question about it. Now, I have my arms free. Yay, I can do things. Next up, what do we got? I will be talking a little bit about headset mics, because I know there's a lot of gamers out there. And they like to have, they got their microphones right here. But realistically, this is like for a computer. This is like a $5 microphone element, and it has to be powered by the computer. And I'm not running it into a computer. And when I did run it into the computer, I heard buzz and noise. So realistically, I'm just going to say right now, do not use this microphone in a gaming headset for your audio, for production audio, because they're bad. They're just really bad. So I'm not even going to plug that one in. It's just, I tested it before the show. I actually went through every microphone before the show, and I'll go through every microphone in the show, just for you. I am going to go with the shotgun microphone. Also kind of a term that you don't want to use too much these days, out of context, because, you don't want to say, I'm bringing the shotgun. But that's the type of microphone it is. That's what it's called. This is a Sennheiser ME66 and a K6 capsule, but again, available through any number of manufacturers. The key with these microphones is they're very directional. Technically, let me move this out of the way. Technically, the little camera top microphones that you see a lot, they're short shotguns, but they're directional microphones because they have, if you take the windscreen off, they have the same effect going around the capsule that a shotgun does, but this one is longer. So it's more, this is what they call super cardioid. And the pattern is very directional. So if it's pointing at me, sounds really good. If it's pointed away from me, it's very different, very, very different. So let me put in my other headphones, which are connected to my analog mixer. And then I am going to turn on the input from that one. There we go. That's the big difference. So this microphone, as you can see, is pointed at me. I can be further away and it's still going to get good sound. It's very different than a large diaphragm condenser mic where you got to be right on top of it. This one is meant to be further away. It's used in film where it's above the person, but you still want to get very close, very detailed sound. It could be on top of the camera, pointed at the person talking, and it's going to get very detailed sound. The other key thing with a directional microphone like this is it rejects sound from the side. So if I turn it like this, now you can barely hear me. But if it's like this, it's very, very, very present. So you can really hear the difference when you take a shotgun, a hypercardioid directional microphone, and you have it pointed at your subject or you have it pointed away from your subject. The sound changes dramatically. It's rejecting the sound from the side. It's isolating what you want versus everything else. And that's where these things really, really, really work, is just over the camera pointed at me, it's still going to get this cone of sound in front of it and reject the rest of the room and things like that. I have actually seen these used during conferences, interviews during trade shows, where they're being held really close, but what it's really doing is it's isolating the person who's doing the interviewing. I'm talking, now you're talking, I'm talking, now you're talking, and it isolates their sound from all of the noise in the room. It really does a fantastic job doing that. So that is a shotgun microphone. Next up, we have a musician's favorite, it's the Samson SM58. And you can hear it sounds good. It sounds good close up. It's a great vocal microphone. It's very present. It may not have the best bass response. I can be a little bit either side. It still picks up pretty good. It's got a kind of a wide cone of sound in front of it. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't pick up behind the microphone very well. So it is still a directional microphone. And it also picks up sound close. It's because it is an unpowered microphone. It doesn't require any voltage to power it. This can be used in very, very loud situations because you can't overdrive it. There's no electricity going, there's no phantom power going through it. There's no battery. And this means that these microphones can sound great even in loud situations. Like you can put this microphone in a kick drum to pick up that sound. They do tend to be, you want to be close, whereas if you move further away, you'll notice that the sound kind of, really starts to weaken a little bit as opposed to when it's really close. But it still does pick up really, really well. So the Samson is a great vocal microphone. It doesn't require power. It's not as big in front of you in terms of a large condenser microphone. You can have this on a little table stand, and it's a little bit more forgiving in terms of position as well. So these are also very good for interviews, podcasts, and things like that. So this is a 2.4 gig mic, and there are any number of 2.4 gig mics. So let's switch to that now. There we go. And this does pick up good sound. I mean, I could clip it on my shirt. There you go. So the nice thing with this microphone is I don't have to be up in front of it because it's going to follow me around. Wherever I might go, this microphone comes with me. It's always the same distance from, my mouth. You can, on these 2.4 gig mics, you can plug in a lavaliere and put the belt pack somewhere else, or you can plug in a headset mic so it's even closer to the person's mouth, which is great for conferences where there's a lot of noise and there's amplification in the room. So you want to make sure that you're getting as much as the person speaking and as little as their voice coming back through the sound system because you don't want to have feedback. So this is a good microphone. One of the key things you're going to find, though, is any digital microphone is going to have a little bit of delay. You don't notice it when it's the only source. But if I were to add, say, the Samson, then you can possibly hear that there is a little bit of kind of a reverb going on, and that's just because this microphone is faster than this microphone. And by that I mean the sound going through the analog is literally going through as it's being received. There's no delay. Whereas the audio going into a digital microphone has to come in, be compressed, transmitted, decompressed, and then passed on as audio. And that compression and decompression takes time. In this case, a couple milliseconds. But if I were to take off the Samson, then you don't hear that echo. You just hear the microphone by itself. But if I put the second microphone on, then you can hear a little bit of, it kind of sounds like reverb. There's like a little, I don't know how to explain it. There's a little bit of reverberance, echo, or, there's a second echo of the same sound coming through. And that's just because this one comes first, this one comes second. And you're going to find that with any digital system. Any analog system is not going to have that. So the advantage of the 2.4 gig systems is they're very small. They're very discreet. This one, I mean, obviously has some lights on it, but you can turn it around, and there it's, you know, pretty nondescript. It's easy to clip on someone. If you have to pass a microphone between multiple people to get interviews, this is a great way to do it because it's close. You don't have the lavaliere part of it, and this is the built-in microphone, although this system does come with lavaliere extensions. And these are very convenient. They work fantastic close up. Another key thing is because they're in the 2.4 gig spectrum, they're kind of free from the fact that there's so little space left in the UHF spectrum for 400 megahertz and 500 megahertz wireless microphones. But at the same time, 2.4 gig is an open spectrum, and you can be in instances where there's enough RF going around a space where this can be problematic and can be a little glitchy, which is why companies like Rode have actually built recorders into the microphones, because people have found that there's been times where there's like lost packets, and lost packets equals not perfect sound. But if we can record on the device that's on the person, that's it. That's going to be perfect sound because there's no digital loss being transmitted. And that's why they've introduced that into their microphones, because it is an issue with 2.4 gig that there's wireless video, there's Wi-Fi data, there's all kinds of stuff going on in the 2.4 gig spectrum that these microphones have to fight against. It's like trying to send a little bit of information while there's a bunch megaphones of other information being shouted at the same time. Also, they work really good indoors because the 2.4 gig bounces off of walls and stuff like that. But if you go outdoors and somebody turns away and putting their body between the transmitter and the receiver, the body doesn't let the signal go through. And all of a sudden your signal can be there and then gone. So 2.4 gig has advantages, and at the same time 2.4 gig has other disadvantages. And you have to weigh which tool is the right tool for the job at hand. This is the Samson SM58. It is a classic vocal mic used for musicians for decades. And my audio kit would not be complete if I did not have an SM58 in it. You might ask, why do I have so many microphones? Which microphone is best? And the answer is, different microphones are best at different times. So if I need a table mic for a presenter, this is the mic I'm going to use. I'm not going to use a 2.4 gig mic. I'm not going to use a large diaphragm mic. I'm not going to use a shotgun mic. I might use a lav, but this microphone on the desk does a great job, and it's a known entity. When it's in a stand or whatever, people know how to I need to adjust it for my height. It's not this unknown thing. It's been around long enough that people are exposed to it, because you just have to remember, it's not just you, it's the person you're putting the microphone in front of too. So making technology work for the person using it is also key. And the next one is going to be hard to show you. It is this tabletop microphone with this long gooseneck arm. You can see it over here. This is the gooseneck arm, and the mic element is really teeny. It's smaller than the one in the Samson, which is actually kind of a large diaphragm. And it comes down to an XLR, but it's got a base on it so that you'll often find these used if you're doing panel events, so that people can press the button when they're talking and let go of the button when they're not talking, which lowers the number of open microphones in a room. Because the more open microphones you have in a room where your sound is being amplified, the more that amplified sound is going into all of those microphones, and it's feeding back on itself. And then next thing you know, you get a feedback loop and you get that high-pitched whine that everybody hates. While there's technology to fix the result, it's easier to fix it at the source, by making it so if you want to talk, push and hold the button while you're talking. And then when you're done talking, you can sit back in your seat and you let go. Plus, having this on the table means that those people who are going to be speaking know where to talk into the microphone. It's there right in front of their mouth. So let me switch to that one. That is, let me turn this one off. And this is the desk mic. Now, I have it set so it's always open. And you don't want to pop the mic because I don't have a big enough pop filter on it. But you can see this is the microphone I'm using now, and it sounds okay. And when I move away from it, it doesn't sound as good, but it is pretty forgiving in terms of people being next to it, over here, above it, below it. You can still kind of hear what people are saying. So it's very forgiving in the sound cone, but because it has that microphone right there and people are going to be putting their mouth up real close to it, you want to make sure you get a big enough windscreen or a strong enough windscreen to stop the P's and the T's from popping the mic and distorting. And you can get these, and any number of manufacturers make these type of gooseneck mics. Some are even digital, so they'll actually automatically turn on and turn off when it gets loud enough. Like when somebody leans in to talk, it'll automatically, like a noise gate will trip, and it's like, now it's on. Here I'm transmitting the audio, and when they lean back and it goes below a threshold, it'll automatically turn off, which is a great feature. And this requires phantom power because this is an amplified microphone going through the system. There's a switch on the bottom of this base here, and if I turn it over, now I have to push the button to talk, and when I let go, I said, now you don't hear anything. So let me switch that back. And that's one of the reasons I like this microphone, because I can have it set either way. The base alone costs like $60, $80. And then the microphone is just more on top of it. But it is a solution that is unlike anything else because it's directional, it's isolated, and it has a user function that people can figure out really easy. You push to talk. And people are, in a panel event can be very used to that because, you don't want to have the microphones open all the time, because I've seen events or talks, panel events where they've got a bunch of these. And then when people are done talking, they put them down on the table and they're facing out into the audience, picking up the sound, the amplified sound that everybody's hearing. And then what that means is the person who's running the audio mixer has to keep turning on mics and turning off mics or adjusting levels up and down and stuff like that. It's easier just to use good technology and have it sitting there on the table so that the people who you are putting it in front of don't have to think about technology. They're there to answer questions. They're there to present information and things like that. Let them focus on that. You focus on the technology. This little guy is a directional mic, powered, and it's meant to go on top of a camera. It's a lot smaller than my other shotgun microphone. Some might call it a short shotgun, but it's a directional microphone, an on-camera directional microphone. And I have it plugged into the mixer, and phantom power is being applied. So let's go to, where is this one? Short shotgun. That's this one right here. And you can hear when I'm talking through this short shotgun that when I go to the side, it is definitely directional. You can hear me better this way than you can when I'm off to the side. And that's really the point. When you have a camera, I'm amazed how many DSLRs and podcaster mics and things like podcaster cameras and stuff, they all have microphones on top of the camera. Now they may say, oh, there's multiple mic capsules and it's directional. But I mean, all those capsules are on top of the microphone. They're all pointed up. So you have to do a whole lot of fixing to make that audio that you're receiving from pointing up with your microphones to get the audio in front of the camera, which is what you want. You don't want audio from behind the camera. You don't want audio from above the camera. Do I want to record the HVAC? No. I want to record the person I'm pointing the camera at. So a directional microphone like this on top of the camera makes it so that you're capturing only the sound from in front of the camera. That's the whole point of pointing a camera at someone, is to record them. And you want to record the audio coming with them as well. So this is the microphone that I'm using right now. And this is a newer microphone, and it does fine business. I know Rode and a bunch of companies have these short shotguns, mini directional microphones, and they all do a good job. These also work well in terms of iPhoneography. iPhone, plug this in to your phone, the phone powers it, it gets directional audio, and it's very small and lightweight to carry. So these are very handy and useful in situations where I don't want to put this on top of my iPhone. It's not a good solution, the right tool for the job. AVX is a standard created by Sennheiser. It uses 1.9 gigahertz, and they came out with a nice little, this is their look. And the key thing with 1.9 is there's very little else there. So these kind of exist in their own spectrum as opposed to 2.4, which has Wi-Fi and wireless cameras and all this other stuff. There's no Wi-Fi and wireless cameras in 1.9. There may be other specific items, but they're purpose-built to be there. And this is an open, anybody can get it, non-licensed, I should say, standard that is available on those frequencies. And it has a little battery, and the little battery has a USB-C charger. So that way I can charge it up, or I can power this thing indefinitely, or it runs on phantom power. So I'm going to plug it into my receiver or into my mixer here. Let's get the big red button. 3, 4, 5. Now it's going to light up red for a couple seconds till it finds the receiver, then it's going to go green. And just the same way I showed you that the 2.4 gig mic actually has a little bit of delay, like if I went with the desk mic and I turned both of these on, you could possibly hear that there's a little bit of echo or reverb. The same can be said for the AVX mic. It's a little bit delayed compared to real time. About the same delay as a 2.4 gig mic. The frequency is irrelevant. It's the fact that it has to be digitally compressed, transmitted, received, uncompressed, and then handed off as analog audio again. So let me turn off my 2.4 gig and go to the AVX. All right, and here we go. I'll just unravel this a little bit. I'm going to clip this on here and go there. There we go. So this AVX mic is transmitting at 1.9 gigahertz and has the same issues with the 2.4 gig. You don't want to have your body in between the transmitter and the receiver if you're going a great distance. But these are small, lightweight. These are actually made out of metal because Sennheiser makes durable, expensive things, and this will last. So, you can drop this, pick it up, it's still working. It's not made out of plastic like the 2.4 gig system. And it has a plug-in for the microphone, just like the 2.4 gig, so that I could use a headset mic. I could you can use this for an instrument, plug it into a guitar or things like that. And so it's very functional and frequency agile. Whereas these guys, some of them do allow you to find the frequency. Most of them try to find the frequency on their own. These you can adjust pairing, and it'll tell you on the receiver what channel it is, 3602 or whatever it is. I can't really make it out with my eyes. But these do a fantastic job, and the nice thing is they're not in the 2.4 gig spectrum, so they are less susceptible to being in a broadcast situation where people are going to show up with wireless 2.4 or wireless video transmitters, which are going to be on the Wi-Fi, in the Wi-Fi bands, and they're going to just decimate other things that are trying to use those same frequencies, because those wireless video between a camera and a receiver, those things take up multiple channels. They just blanket the spectrum and take over. And the further you get from transmitter and receiver, the weaker that received signal is. And if you get this big bullhorn of digital noise from something else blocking the sound, the way digital works is you get all or nothing. So that's the AVX. So this is the UHF system, and this is not the most expensive UHF. You can spend thousands on UHF systems because they have been around the longest. And from Electrosonics and other companies, they will have them with recorders in them and things like that as well. And you can hear this sounds nice, present, good, clear. It's also not compressed. There's no delay. So if I turn on the UHF microphone and the AVX at the same time, you'll hear a little bit of, timing echo, a little bit of reverb going on because the AVX is behind the analog UHF microphone. It has nothing to do with the frequencies. It has to do with the digital microphone is being compressed and decompressed, and that takes time. It's just tens of milliseconds, but we can hear it if you've got an analog microphone and a digital microphone and you're trying to put them together. They're not going to match sound-wise. One's going to be slightly behind the other, and that will create this weird phasing effect like we're hearing now. Whereas if I turn off AVX, then it will sound fine. If I turn off UHF, it will sound fine. Either one is fine, but you need them to be all analog mics or all digital mics. And even different digital mics will probably sound different. Let's clip this one on. Oops. Yeah, it's transmitting. So let's clip it up here. So I have a 2.4 gig mic, a 1.9 gig mic, and a UHF mic on. Let's do the 2.4 gig and the AVX, the 1.9 gig. So there we've got these two mics, and you can hear there's still a little bit of phasing going on in between the 2.4 and the 1.9 gig AVX mic, and that is still because these two don't match precisely. There's a difference in timing. I would likely guess that the 2.4 gig is a little bit further behind than the AVX, and that Samson would put speed as one of the key factors in their AVX system. But again, if you were to take the 2.4 gig mic by itself, it sounds fine. If you were to take the AVX mic by itself, it sounds fine. You just don't want to put the 2.4 gig and the UHF mic, because then you can really start to hear that there's a bit of timing issue going on here, and probably the transmitter being close to the microphone element of the receiver. Now maybe you like that little bit of reverb, but honestly, it is something that we're not looking to induce into the audio chain. We're looking to have a pure sound, whether it be just UHF or just 2.4 gigahertz. You want to make sure that the microphone you're using and the system you're using is unified. And one of the things I like is this 2.4 gig mic actually has two microphones with one receiver. That's really handy. It's not exclusive to that. The UHF mic that I've had for over a decade does the exact same thing. Two belt packs and one receiver that will receive both of them. And it can mix them to mono. It can, do I still have both on? No, it's just echoing in my head. I'll go here. It can mix them to mono. It can give you stereo, one mic on one channel, the other mic on the other channel, A and B. And there's a lot of flexibility in terms of being able to receive two microphones with one receiver, as opposed to having to have all these different receivers. Not the least of which is making sure all your gear is powered. If you only have to power one receiver, it's pretty easy to figure out what's going on. If you have to power multiple receivers, then you're keeping track of just more things. And the more things you don't have to keep track of, the better. How do you determine the amount of delay needed to sync audio? Very good question. Typically one frame, if your video is 30 frames a second, 30 or 60, if your video is 30 frames a second, one frame is 30 milliseconds. If you're 60 frames a second, then one frame is 15 milliseconds. And you can figure it out math-wise for 50p and 25p. These don't have published delay specifications. So what I usually do is I clap my hands and I do a video recording, and then I look on the edit timeline and I sit there, it's testing. It's testing when you don't need it. So we have talked AVX. We have talked also AVX. We have talked UHF. We have talked 2.4 gig. We have talked desk microphones. We have talked shotgun microphones. We have talked short shotgun microphones. We have talked handheld microphones, and we have talked large diaphragm condenser microphones. And I hope today's show has been useful when considering which microphone is the best microphone for you. Which one? As with most things, it depends on what you want to do with it, because there's different tools in this toolbox that lets you achieve different things at different times for different needs. Alrighty, with that, I'm going to say thank you all for being here, and I look forward to see you all next week. Again, if you find something you like, share it with other people. I greatly appreciate it. And till next time, you have a good week of production. Thanks for being here.